And welcome back to News Center at 7 a.m. right here on Fox 28. We are so pleased to welcome Louise back. She's our good friend, author, and spiritual intuitive counselor. Want to get that right.
Thank you.
She wrote the book Beyond Boundaries, The Adventures of a Seer.
And Hard Links right here. And we're just thrilled to have you back. We talked after your last appearance, and we didn't want you to leave. We were thinking about just kidnapping you and keeping you around because of your fascinating work. Give people a thumbnail sketch of what you do for the folks who missed your first appearance.
I've never doubted my connection to the source and that there's a bigger picture unfolding. So I've learned that the more I surrender to that bigger, infinite plan, the more I get this ongoing communion with the universe that has a tremendous sense of humor and an amazing way of orchestrating synchronicities, what Carl Jung called seemingly psychic timing of events.
You were talking about signals earlier during the break. And you said sometimes you have to pay attention because you pick up on things and don't realize it at the time.
But we've got our back to that door of being a receiver when we are living with those rigid expectations of what we think things should look like and how things should evolve. It will always happen in a different way, a much more imaginative, creative way. But when your expectations are a certain way, for example, how a loved one is going to reach you from the other side, you won't get it the way that it's coming in. You're going to be focused on how it needs to be. So one of our greatest enemies is our expectations. Another is being in our heads. When you're in your head, your rational mind does not understand this kind of information. People get a knee-jerk response when I am picking up intuitively on certain things. And, for example, I said to a fellow who was a developer in California, I see that in your past there was an Aunt Rose who made raspberry jello. And it was significant because he'd been abandoned and raised by his aunt. He looked at me and he said, didn't everybody have an Aunt Rose who made raspberry jello? That was his rational mind kicking in. He could not understand how I could know that. We all have an energy field, and everything about us is in that field. So I simply am pulling out certain things. Using Andy as an example, that somewhere in his energy field I was seeing these skateboarders, people skateboarding around you, and there's something about that right now in your life?
Yeah, well, when I come home, driving home every evening, I almost run over these kids who are in the street skateboarding and ignoring the fact that I have a 2,000-pound car coming at them.
Oh, so, yes. So everything we experience, everything we perceive, think about is right around us. Time is an illusion. Now we come into the illusion of time and death. It's only in this third-dimensional physical reality that we perceive events and circumstances as happening sequentially, linearly, one thing coming after another. It's almost like a gravitational pull on time. There's a great saying that time is nature's way of keeping everything from happening all at once. And it really does mark our place. It shows us where we are in this dimension. But outside of this dimension, there's no time. Past, present, probable future are coexisting. Einstein said time is relative to where the observer is standing. So I go to a frequency in myself on the radio dial that takes me outside of this dimension where I view all time occurring simultaneously. But the trick is, if people are becoming multisensory and opening up to that they do get these perceptions, the important thing is, what do you do with the information? So what? So how can that be functional? How can this be life expanding, life enhancing?
My parents are now passed, and I've been thinking about my mom lately, especially as the children get older. How I miss her and stuff like that, and that's one of the things.
Remember a time? Did you ever give her a big corsage or big Mom? Did you used to do that on Mother's Day?
Yeah, I would give her. I've given her. Remember giving her several flowers. I also remember I gave her a big pen once. Was
it a flower pen?
Yeah.
Well, she just popped in right beside you. Death is an illusion. We really don't die. This energy field that we are is consciousness, and it exists with or without a body. So we have this concept now of the other side, which is great because it's educating people to the illusion of death. It really doesn't exist. But people are thinking it's a place. So your mother didn't just come in from the other side. You thought of her. You felt her in her heart. Your heart, Heart Links, the title of my book. The heart is a very particular frequency on the radio dial that connects you to loved ones beyond time and death. So you were just thinking of your mother. She popped in right there, and she was showing me the pin that you'd given her. She's talking about Beth, M-A-R?
Mary Beth.
Mary Beth, and that's your daughter?
Yes.
And did she know her?
No, my children never met my...
She does, just to let you know. Your folks do know your children. Isn't that nice to know?
Yeah.
Now, I've had people in audiences say, well, if my grandfather's watching, does he watch when I do personal things? I cleaned it up a little there. And I said, well, it's no different from, you walk around the house, you think of a friend, the friend calls you on the phone, you compare notes, you realize you were dialed, and you say, hey, we were tuned in. But you don't suddenly see everything about your friend. You just found each other's frequency and tuned in. That's what your mother just did. Your mother's also showing me a white structure. Was there a white house?
Our house was white.
Okay, so she's reminiscing. When loved ones describe things from the past, a client might say, well, that was 50 years ago. But again, she's in a dimension where there's no time. So she's reminiscing, and she's saying you were always so good to her, very sensitive, very caring. And she's glad that that's making you a caring husband. She's showing me a scene of walking with a stick.
Oh, God.
Does this make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Is it too personal?
No, actually, it's from a video we have. We have a film of us walking home from church, and she has a stick in her hand, and she's keeping my other brothers and sisters in line with one by herself.
My word.
Oh, so she was being funny. No, or was she being serious?
No, we were out of line, and she was like, she picked up a switch. That's what she did.
Spare the rod, spoil the child.
Someone in the family is about to get to the next level in school, or with some kind of accreditation or certification?
Well, my children are, I have a child who's switching, who's going to another school.
Just about to switch schools.
Yeah.
Going to new, and she's saying things will open up for that child. And then I get the color red. Is there a lot of red around that child?
He's a redhead.
No.
Okay. Say that you met Andy last time you were here. The last two times we're here, just casually though. You've never really had a conversation that we know of,
yeah.
at least in the studio, because you're always whisked in and then
the context
whisked out.
Of here's the crew.
Yeah, exactly.